Welcome to First Dates and Soulmates, the romance podcast that is healing toxic masculinity one muscled, kind man at a time. I am your host, Nikki McKnight.
And I'm Meg Casebolt.
And on today's episode, we are talking about the Himbo. The handsome bimbo. The male bimbo is our topic for today. Meg, what are your thoughts on Himbos?
I have mixed feelings about Himbos, but I love that it is like the male bimbo, right? It was this archetype of women who were sort of flighty or airheaded, and then we get to play with it and go, it's not just women, it can be anybody. And the fact that they're usually like jacked is pretty fun to read about, but also there's a point where I'm like, are people really that dumb? Are they though?
Yeah. It's funny. I often think of Himbo as like having to be really muscular, and then I kind of started looking into it. I was like, oh no, they can just be dumb.
It's just dumb. It's not
like
it's
Jason
not jockish.
from The Good Place. Jason Mendoza is considered a Himbo, and I was like, oh my god, it was so true. Like Manny Jacinto is not like a jacked dude. He's a jacked dude, but he's not jacked. And I thought that was really, really entertaining. And then of course with bimbo, like female bimbos, I think Marilyn Monroe, I think Elle Woods in Legally Blonde, Billy Bob Thornton's daughter in the Landman series, like Ali Larter's kid in that show, who's just kind of like like airheaded thing. And like always happens on this show, when we start actually looking into tropes and looking into archetypes, and it's like, I don't really think I have opinions on these. I don't think I read this very often. No, yes I do. Yes, I have many, and yes, I have read many. So
I noticed it from you when you were going through some ships, and you were like, "Oh, another Himbo," and you were like, "Oh, did I just do another Himbo?" You know, like,
yeah.
Because I think it's actually like, I don't want to say a rising archetype, but I think especially in the space, there's a bit of a trend right now towards Himbos that maybe also align with queer awakenings, where it's like, oh bro, I didn't even know that I could feel that way about a dude. I thought that like girls were just girls, yo. Like, you know.
I actually meant to search that, and I totally spaced on it. I wanted to look up the search volume. You know, you can search certain Google terms or like Amazon terms. So if you want to do that,
I have no idea how you do that. Do you want me to look it up while you do like a short
I would.
overview of
I legitimately, I was thinking about this last night. I would love to see the rise, because my assumption is very much the same. There's been an increase in not only that word usage, but how it's showing up in books. And I literally just did not do it because I was building funnels last night and did not get around to this.
Tell you what, you do like a short history of the Himbo, and I'll go do my like search nerd moment.
This is equitable division of labor, y'all. All right. As we've said, Himbo is a portmanteau of the word him and bimbo. So it was originally used as like a mild insult for those attractive but not very bright men. It's Alan Ritchson's character in Blue Mountain State, Tad, he's kind of like that Himbo. He's just like a dumb dude, bro. But it really has evolved into something it's much more of an endearment. It's much more of a portrait of anti-toxic masculinity, which I'm so excited to get into. But here's the origin and etymology of the word for all of us word nerds. Is that the word comes from the Italian bimbo, which is a masculine word, which means little boy. So bimbo was actually referring to a male originally.
You know what? It makes sense. Bambino would turn into bimbo. So it's sort of like the diminutive of bambino would be like, oh, like, mi bimbo, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So it started off as an Italian term referring to a man. It came into the American lexicon in the 1910s, 1920s, where it still meant a stupid or brutish man. It wasn't until the 1920s in the US where it was popularized in a Variety article by author Jack Conway, and the Oxford English Dictionary first put the word bimbo into the dictionary in 1929, where the definition was simply a woman. Bimbo equals a woman. That's
Shut up.
Yes. Thank you, Oxford English Dictionary, I guess, for making that a term.
That hurts.
Yeah. And the word kind of went out of usage for a while. But as I said, I mentioned Marilyn Monroe, we think of as like, oh, she's the blonde bombshell, the blonde bimbo. It really came back into use in the 80s during U.S. political sex scandals. And it was very much still a gendered weapon that was aimed at women. But the 1980s also saw the rise of Himbo. And it was in a 1988 Washington Post article describing a man at Cannes, the Cannes Film Festival, who was wearing a 16-foot python as a stole, which honestly, cool. Can you see like a man
I love
at
that
Cannes wearing like, I'm here in a 16-foot python. Ugh, what a himbo.
Yeah.
Honestly,
No, I think that's like kind of
it.
a like hunky, like that's a sartorial choice. That's not like you're dumb.
It's fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we, into the 90s after that is when we still get the bimbo being thought of as typically blonde, vapid, dumb, but also women who would play dumb on purpose as a motif, as an archetype, while secretly being much smarter than everyone else around her. This is when you're going to see your Pamela Andersons, your Anna Nicole Smiths, who are very much that blonde and vacuous, gold digging, I'm just in it to look pretty and to giggle and to flip my hair. There is a famous paparazzi photo from the 2000s, which had Paris Hilton, Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears, and leaving a club. And that became known as the Bimbo Summit, a gathering of these dumb blonde bitches, which then that gets us into the era of like Perez Hilton and other kind of gossip catalogs of the time, literally like drawing penises on photos of these women. Ugh. So a lot of evolution from man to kind of a stupid woman to just woman in general to dumb on purpose to it's these celebutante types. And then for bimbo especially, we're much more into the reclamation phase now of Gen Z and bimbo talk, where it's more hyperfemininity as satire. It's performance. It's bimbo as a feminist statement, kind of into like the girly pop stuff we've got going on now, where Elle Woods she's a lifestyle, not necessarily a punchline. You have strong, beautiful female characters who maybe dress a little bit more feminine or hype femme, but they'll come out and totally blow you away with their intelligence, or they'll use it as a tool to kind of stay underneath the surface. All this to say is, why does this matter for himbos? Is that the full word origin was masculine. It is always meant a dumb man first.
Right, dumb person.
Himbo kind of entering the lexicon and becoming a character archetype we see more in romance novels these days is a return to the original definition, but it's removed a lot of the cruelty of the word and it's made kindness and just sunshine attitudes more load-bearing rather than dumb bitch.
Yeah.
There you go. The etymology and the origin of the himbo bimbo.
Oh, right. So you ready for Meg's nerd alert over here?
Yeah, hit me with
while
the
we were
search
doing
stuff.
this. Okay, so let me know if you can see my screen. We'll pull these details. Right now it's in like that mode. Okay, so when we look at Google search, himbo did not actually really get searched at all until 2020. It had this huge spike in like
my God, is
September
this another
and October
pandemic boom?
2020.
Is this another pandemic book talk boom?
Maybe. I don't know if it's related to book talk. This is just himbo as a phrase. I didn't see anything like himbo romance, himbo books. But it certainly was a huge spike in like fall of 2020. So like 6 months into pandemic. And then it's been sort of trailing off since that point. I'm also seeing that it's like 18,000 people every month looking for himbo, something related to himbo. 2,900 looking for what is a himbo. There's a Skyrim cloak armor called a himbo. There's a himbo dome. I don't know what that is. But then I also I saw that there was 720 people a month looking for requirements for being a himbo. And I was like, okay, what would show up for requirements for being a himbo? So there's this article in Eagle's Scream. Did you read this?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's called Himbos and Why They Matter from 2022. It's got this like super cutie guy here, art, and then it's like, okay, what is a himbo? And the notable himbos, it's only got one notable himbo, and it's Kristoff from Frozen.
Kristoff, and then it's mentioning Kronk from Emperor's New Groove, which I knew. Hercules, yes. Fred from Scooby Doo, yeah.
Yeah, and then the anti-himbo in their example, the anti-himbo is is it Hiccup? Hiccup from How to Train a Dragon? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's our Disney version of himbos for you.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was like, Kronk from Emperor's New Groove is for me.
Yeah,
like,
he's a great
the very
himbo.
animated definition of he's a little bit dumb, but he's got a heart of gold. Cusco's poison, the poison of Cusco. I love Kronk. Yeah, okay. I'm really fascinated by the rise of it, and I like that we're talking about this now. In our episode on 1960s romance, I talked a little bit about The Apartment and American Psycho,
Oh,
and
yeah.
what is the satire of Christian Bale in American Psycho playing the avatar of male fragility rather than an actual male character. And I do feel like the himbo is kind of the same thing. It's an avatar of something that is very anti toxic masculinity. It is this person, by all appearances, looks like what we would consider an alpha male character typically. Especially in romance, they are typically muscular. They're typically broad. They have, perfect teeth, big smile. They're very gregarious and effusive in their mannerisms and in their nature. And everybody describes him as, he's just a little dumb. He's just a little dumb, but he wouldn't hurt a fly. He's just dumb, which I enjoy.
Yeah. And I love also when it's not just like the perception of the himbo as somebody else thinks you're dumb and you're playing dumb, but like when you actually get that first person himbo interiority and you're like, you didn't get that, dude? Like, bro, you didn't understand that piece? So that's the other thing that I love about himbos is that you get into the dumb head and you as the reader are picking up the signs that they're missing for whatever it is, or they're just not getting things. It's not getting through those thick skulls. I was sort of, when you pitched this, I was like, is Cruz from All Twerk No Play a himbo? I don't think he is. I think he's just jacked, but he's not dumb.
So here's the thing. I was going around to various book talk, Bookstagram, Reddit threads, just to kind of see how people are talking about himbos. And ultimately what I think I found is that when we're talking about a himbo specifically, we're typically talking about a character that has these three very specific characteristics.
Yes, give me the framework. Yes. Give me the framework.
So one is physically impressive. They don't have to be like huge and jacked, but physically they are in shape, they are streamlined, they are strong. The second part is not particularly book smart, but they might be really good with people, might be really good with their hands, just not an academic setting typically. But the third part, and I think this is where this is the key point of differentiation for how the himbo stands out, is they have to be genuinely, actively a good human. Because if you take out being a good person, you just have physically impressive and not very smart, he's just a meathead. Like, he's not particularly interesting. Oh. But to have that good-natured quality to him, like, that is load-bearing for the character.
For the romance, especially.
Yes, very much so. He's not the himbo can't be performing sensitivity or performing vulnerability. He just cares about people and cares about things, and he's just bad at hiding it.
Yeah.
It's just out there. This is not a character that can deceive. He does not have it in him.
Yeah. He's not performative. He just shows up and he is who he is, and he might not be the most book smart, but you want to spend time with him. Mm-hmm. He's very likable. Yeah, and you were saying, thinking back on our 1960s episode and talking about how you brought up American Psycho, even though it's not 1960s, we were discussing different avatars and archetypes. And I was thinking, C.C. Baxter has a little this like boneheaded, not social awkwardness, but he's not good looking enough. Sorry, Jack Lemmon. Like, he's not meant to be the good looking alpha male, so he's sort of missing that himbo-ness. So he's just like, he's more cinnamon roll than himbo, right? And so maybe that's the difference too, is cinnamon rolls can fit into this, like, they have some of these characteristics. They have the genuine niceness and the caretaking and the wanting to take care of people, but we don't also have either, because cinnamon rolls can be physically attractive, but they don't have the book smart piece of it. They can be book smart too.
And I think that's also a distinction when we start talking about the golden retriever type, which in a Venn diagram slightly overlaps, but the golden retriever is more defined by enthusiasm.
Yes.
Himbo is defined by sincerity.
Okay.
That's how I kind of do it. Because golden retrievers can be sharp and a himbo is typically not. But that's not a bug, right? Like, that's a feature. And I think
you said Venn diagram. I wonder if it's less Venn diagram and it's more like 3 spectrums. Where it's like
absolutely.
enthusiasm to sincerity is a spectrum. And then like attractiveness can be a spectrum. And then I don't know what the third, like intelligence.
Yeah.
But like it's not just like, maybe it's not just book smart intelligence. It's like all the different types of intelligences. It can be social intelligence. It can be like, you know, being really good with your hands, like you said. Like there are different ways to judge that, but I could almost see it as like an axis of 3 different spectrums that we're doing these male archetypes on top of each other.
And that's why I think that the himbo is typically thought of as being a jock, even though he doesn't typically have to have that size to meet the definition. That kind of that falls into like the Jimbo, I'll call it subcategory.
Yes.
But if they are not necessarily book smart and they're more physical smart, that means they're going to excel in things like sports, like being a personal trainer, like being in the trades, like being able to pick up heavy things and put down heavy things in a very stylish and handsome kind of way. And I feel like they always have to have strong jaw lines. This is a must. I want a strong jaw.
Required. No, I think Cruz might actually be a himbo. I didn't write him as a himbo. I wrote him as a golden retriever. But now that you're giving me this like work through, I think he might be a himbo.
I think he might be a little bit in the middle because I definitely think he has that enthusiasm factor, and he has the sincerity.
He doesn't have the book smarts. Like he's intelligent, but he's not book smart. Like he hasn't he you know dropped out of high school. He did like he went a different path, but he's smart. So maybe that's not himbo. I don't know, but he definitely is a golden retriever. Okay, but I love this as a way to say, what's the difference between a himbo and a meathead? What's the difference between a himbo and a cinnamon roll? What's the difference between a himbo and a golden retriever? Yes.
Yeah, and of course there's nuance, and none of these are like written. We're not talking like hero's journey type of archetypes.
No,
here.
I will write this up as a framework. God damn it! I will create this, and it will outperform this like Christoph versus Hiccup because we can do better than that.
Yeah, and I think what is really important with this, and the reason why, like originally I was just kind of thinking, oh great, like it's an archetype, what it makes up of, and again, we're all about culture context to go with the craft. It's the reason why I started linking it or trying to really see what the link could be between the archetype and toxic masculinity specifically was if we look at romance as a genre and the different types of heroic, whether they're male or not, just heroic love interests, a lot of them are emotionally unavailable or they're dark, and that's their point of attractiveness. And I read those, I like them. But the journey with those characters is the other character has to like crack their heart open. Like that's their evolution. They're very closed off. They're unavailable. Usually not sexually, but they are emotionally. So the other character has to be, how do I open them up? A himbo is already open. He is walking in with his chest already open, his heart already available. So that is not the journey that you go on with a himbo. You do it with the Mafia Don. You don't do it with the himbo.
You don't do it you don't need to go on that journey with the himbo. He shows up and he's ready to play, and he's in. He's all in. He's committed. It's like he doesn't realize maybe what he's getting himself into in the moment, but he's all in on it.
And I think another part of the journey we get to go on with the himbo in romance is the public versus private dichotomy that we often talk about is, so for example, a himbo can be the enforcer on a hockey team, right? Tall, physically large, kind of like, oh, the dumb enforcer. He's not strategic. He's just there to hit people. But then you'll see him and he's crying at a shelter dog video. Like, oh my God, they're so cute. It is the Kronk in The Emperor's New Groove. He's doing the right thing constantly and for no strategic reason. He talks to squirrels. But he's also the one that Yzma's like, I'm going to use you and your physical size to take over this kingdom. But he's like, I just want to talk to squirrels and make good spinach puffs. That is the sum of his ambition. But you keep like uncovering small things, right? It's small town characters who are just so happy to be in their small town and go to the school plays and have dinner at his parents' house on Sunday. It's the big quarterback who is sending his mom flowers every week because he just loves her so much. Like, but people are uncovering this about them because typically they're going to look a certain way. They're either going to look dumb, look gruff, look quiet, look like they don't have a thought in their pretty little head. and they have emotional depth.
Yeah. And then they can subvert the expectation of you expect them to be the meathead. You expect them to be either like if you expect them to be dumb, then you expect them to be egotistical, and therefore they're selfish, right? Not even just egotistical, but there's a selfishness that you expect from the quarterback archetype of I'm the most important, I'm the big man on campus, I'm gonna run this place. And then if they show up and they're a himbo and they're like, actually, I'm gonna take care of my team. I'm going to take care of my mom. I'm going to be this person who is sensitive and who's caring. And when people come to me, I'm going to listen to them. And I may not always give the best advice, but I'm going to listen and I'm going to support them. And like that subverts the jock archetype, which is another piece of this outside of the himbo is this subtype of the Jimbo being the jock. And not all himbos are jocks, but some jocks are himbos.
Exactly. This is the structure.
Right. So, I would say it like a himbo is a subtype of a jock and a jock is a subtype of a himbo.
There's probably another diagram in there somewhere that we could draw. But I think you hit on something really important or integral to this archetype is one, this character is going to be loyal to a degree which is on the border of absurd. Like if you are his person or if you are his cause, he's going to reorganize his entire life around that because that's just what you do, right? Yeah. But the other part of that is he's always going to ask for help. If you offer help, he will take it. If he says, "Hey, could you help me with this?" Like he will ask because he might not know what something is, or he might not know how to do something, or he might be overwhelmed, but he's always going to be a character that says, what does that mean? How do you do this? Can you help? Because he doesn't have any vanity about it. He's legitimately just like, like it's the contrast between size and gentleness, but he's choosing not to be imposing. He's choosing not to be terrifying. He's choosing to be sincere every single day, and that's just how he operates. And it's like, oh, cute.
I love a himbo. So actually, this sort of makes sense with the 2020 spike that we saw on Google Trends, because this was probably about the same time that we saw Morning Glory Milking Farm and Cozy Monster and Space. We just talked about the rise of space coming out in 2020, where it's like the world became harder. In 2020. I would say to a great extent it became harder in 2016 with that administration taking place. But, people were skeptical. They wanted comfort. And romance is the space where they went to for comfort. And maybe we had enough politicians and people in power saying, here's what you need to do. And we didn't need any more freaking alpha males who are going to... or billionaires didn't help us during a pandemic. You know what we wanted is sincerity. We wanted somebody who cares about us. We wanted somebody who made us their person. I don't need them to be the smartest person in the room. I need them to give a shit.
And I think you hit on something really important, which is who is the himbo typically partnered with?
Ooh.
It is the person who is sharper, more anxious, more in their own head, likely more overwhelmed, likely more stressed out, and is trying to do 17,000 things at once. And the himbo is there just going, I just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
I just made you a sandwich. I just brought you this flower because I liked it. Or why don't you just say no? Like, that's nice. We like characters with contrast. Like, there's KM Newhold has her new Jimbo series, which is very fun. I think up to book 2 is out right now. And that is at a gym, so there's multiple characters in there. And sometimes the pairings are Jimbo. Other times they are not. But typically that is like the partner to it, right? We're always going for contrast in romance. So if you have a Jimbo or a himbo, then who are you? Where can they be of most use? It's for someone who is stressed the fuck out and is very, very anxious. I was like, also just their size. I'm like, it's like a hug. It's like that Temple Grandin like hugging machine that she developed in the movie that Claire Danes played Temple. It's like you just have a built-in hugging machine with this gigantic gentleman of a nice, gentle persuasion. It's like, oh, hug. Thank you. I feel nice now.
Yeah, you want someone bigger than you and just kind of hug you up and hold you close and say, it's going to be okay. I don't know how it's going to be okay. That's not my job, but it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is where we get into more of like the toxic masculinity aspect. And what is this character? We've kind of seen that rise in since 2020. What does it say about masculinity today? So I've already talked about he's a rejection of that. It's a dangerous man brought to heel, made gentle by love. When we talk about for women, it's like the magical penis fixed everything.
Right.
Similar. But for so long, the dominant hero archetype in romance was the man who was threatening to everyone but her, right?
Yeah.
He's so dangerous, but he would never hurt me. So he was that cold, controlling, mafia, dark, super powerful. He lets down his guard only around me, and that is the one person who would crack him open. So the fantasy was being the specialist boy or the specialist girl. I'm the only one, and that makes me valuable. Himbos are not dangerous. No. They don't need to be fixed. They don't need to be redeemed. It's like he's like IKEA furniture in a way. He's almost like pre-assembled. He's good as is. So the fantasy is less, I can fix him. And it's more, he's already good.
He's already good. And
I don't need already good.
And I am already so tired. I don't have time to fix another man. I just don't. I don't have the energy to break through his walls. I just can't do it. I don't want someone to tell me what to do and I have to stand up to him. I want someone to make me a damn sandwich. Get in the kitchen, make me a sandwich, rub my feet, tell me I'm pretty. That's what I want.
I love that you mentioned this, and this goes back to what you were talking about with Morning Glory Milking Farm, is this character is mapping on to reader exhaustion with real world dynamics.
Yes.
The expectation that it's the woman's job to do the work of making men emotionally functional, emotionally vulnerable,
just palatable,
acting as their therapist,
functional.
It was showing up in fiction and in life. And to your point, I'm fucking tired. I don't have the time, the energy, or the desire to make you palatable to other humans.
Yeah,
that's not my job. So the himbo is like, what if he just showed up like that?
Yeah.
What if you didn't have to do anything for him? To turn him, to make him, to fix him. There's no, mama, but I can change him. Nobody gives a fuck, babe. We're tired.
Is that the himbo or is that the cinnamon roll, though? Because I feel like the cinnamon roll is the one who takes care of you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, like, attractive and dumb.
Well, I think that's where the Venn diagram is, right? Like, these are all going to overlap in some way, but it's more like these types of characters as it relates to masculinity. Where is it like, would the umbrella be beta males versus alpha males that are a bit more sensitive? I don't think so. I think that's drawing some correlations I think are probably too broad.
Fair.
But like here, another way to put it is if we think about traditional masculine characters in romance, like what do you typically think of?
The alpha, the duke, the mafia boss, the CEO, the quarterback, right? They're the most important. They're the aristocratic. They're the one with the power that can give you access to a world that otherwise you cannot get access to. That's the traditional romance hero.
Yes. So it's the aesthetics combined with the attitude. Yeah. Right? It's physical strength with dominance, it's aggression, it's control. And typically the bigger the man, whether that was physical size or the size of his wallet or size of other things, perhaps, like that increases the implication of danger, but it also increases the implication of the reward that must undoubtedly come after that, after you fixed him. Where the himbo breaks that is that he is big, he is gentle, but there's no tension around that. We get to enjoy the aesthetics of traditional masculinity, size, strength, protectiveness, but with none of the control and baggage and drama that comes with that. Did
you just see like the big exhale that I just did?
That's why, like y'all, the rabbit hole I went down on this that I was not expecting to find. Again, I thought it was going to be like, oh yeah, they're this, they're kind of cute, they're kind of dumb. But then as I started doing more research, and I was like, oh no, like this is also showing up at a time when the cultural conversation about what men are supposed to be and allowed to be is is louder. It's constantly getting louder. We've often joked on the show that like, oh my God, why are these men not in therapy? The himbo would go to therapy tomorrow because he's like, I think that would be a good conversation. Oh, you think I should go? You're right. You're just thinking of what's nice for me. I should do that. So he's almost acting as wish fulfillment for a masculinity that, especially as like a female character, you don't need to be afraid of him.
Because the himbo doesn't push back. The himbo doesn't fight you. The himbo just goes with the plan, goes with the flow. Yeah, you think that's a good idea? I'm in, babe.
Yes.
It's immediately on board.
Yeah, and when we start layering all of these in, you've got the grumpy, like, I'm dark and brooding, and I only come down from my mountain cabin once a month for groceries.
Right, the vampire, the mountain man, yeah.
Exactly, the damaged
what did you call it? The Byronic, like, woe is me characters?
The Byronic woe is me, like, yeah. I must suffer because I did bad things. Like, in those characters, it's the chase. It's him typically chasing her because he recognizes in her there is some goodness that could fix him. For her, it's like, I am the crack in his armor. The moment when he finally lets me in is that moment, to your point, of like that exhale. It's that emotional withholding is creating the tension. But when the himbo doesn't withhold, because he's immediately, transparently, sometimes too much, available for you, like that becomes more attractive to someone. It's like, I don't have to guess. I don't have to guess what his like you up text message means.
Nikki, are there any himbo vampires? Because I feel like that would be like
there must be.
I want to read a himbo. Guys, soulmates, if you're listening and you've read a himbo vampire, I want to see how this works, because I feel like there are so many archetypes that are, you know, I could see like a himbo CEO. I could see certainly see a himbo jock, a himbo duke, but like a himbo vampire, I would really like, I was about to say to sink my teeth into. God damn it, thing. But if you have himbo vampire recommendations, hit us up on Threads. That's where we're hanging out now. Get to our get Hy-Vee to our Threads. Himbo vampires.
There's gotta be one.
There's gotta be. This is the age of self-publishing. Somebody has written a himbo vampire and I want it.
Again, going back to this idea of therapy culture.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I love this because now I'm like, when I was looking into different types of himbo books, a lot of people brought up Louisa Masters books, like the Hidden Demon series, like Alistair the Hellhound. He's definitely kind of got that himbo vibe.
Oh yeah,
but some people even said Andrew the Vampire. I don't know if I'd quite characterize him as himbo. He doesn't.
He's more like easygoing, but I wouldn't call him an airhead.
He's too smart for it. Yeah. But there was he's
lighthearted. He doesn't take things seriously, but he's not quite as golden retriever-y as Alistair.
Yeah. So this, when we get into like therapy culture or emotional intelligence being of value in a romantic partner rather than just the size of their wallet and the size of their dick, you can look at someone like Pedro Pascal. It is the visibility of men who are openly tender, openly gentle, kissing their male friends on the cheek. Like, that's the attractiveness. So my question for you then, because I'm curious from like the writing side of this, if the tension with a himbo is not, I can fix him, I can unlock him, I will be the specialist girl in this power dynamic that makes him change, where do you think the tension or like narrative thrust, comes into a romance story with a himbo character?
All right, if you were doing your bingo card and you were like, is Nikki going to say narrative thrust? You just got your little...
You're welcome.
Stamp.
At least once every other episode I'm going to bring it up.
Exactly. Where does the tension come from? Well, it has to be... So there's, several kinds of tension. Internal, external, interpersonal, right? So it could be an interpersonal tension, and I think that's often where it shows up is that opposites attract that you talked about. Mm-hmm. Because you have the character who is overworked, who is anxious, who is high ambition, who is high stress, and the himbo can be the one to sort of bring them down. You can also have the interpersonal tension be himbo, where they don't necessarily communicate with each other, or they don't necessarily know what it is that they are getting into, which can be fun, where they sort of stumble into a relationship. You've suggested a couple of those as ships that I've read, so I know that those are coming in your recommendations. And then the external conflict is for internal. Himbos don't really have a lot of internal conflict, right? And that's part of what we like about them, is that they can navigate through the world without worry, right? Like they're not in their heads as much as we are. And that's a really nice interiority to get into when you're high anxiety, is to be like, whoa, did he just like not spiral about this? Is it possible to not spiral? Maybe just spoken from experience.
Yeah.
But then the other piece is the external conflict, because the himbo will run into a burning building to save you, even if the firefighter is like, don't do that. It's dumb. You're going to die. He'll be like, well, but it's my person. I got to go get him. You know, like the himbo can face external conflict without the concerns that other people have, or without the like self-regulation. Like they're semi self-sacrificing because they don't necessarily think through everything, and that can be a really nice thing. So I would say a lot of the conflict would be interpersonal though with the himbo.
I love that you brought up though the external circumstances. One of the books that is going to be on my recommendation list for this archetype, which we're going to link all of them in the show notes, is An Unwitting Bargain by Gray Bryan. This is a fae kidnaps a himbo and brings him to like the fae world.
Oh my God, I already love this.
And the himbo thinks he's on a fun fucking vacation. He's eating everything the fae brings him, and the fae is like, does he not fucking know that I've kidnapped him? That we are no longer on Earth. We are in the fae realm, and this is actually extremely dangerous for him. And the himbo's like, wow, what a great vacation. Can I help you with anything? Oh, I'll give you a back massage. You brought me to this beautiful beach area. And the fae's like, he's not even questioning why the fuck he's here, and he's just having a great fucking vacation. It's hilarious. Or look at one of the very first books I read that had himbo in the title, Not All Himbos Wear Capes by C. Rochelle. You have Butch and Xander.
Oh,
now,
Butch.
and part of the conflict with Butch being Captain Masculine is literally his superhero name. Like, I think Curran was doing something very pointed with that metaphor.
That was not subtext. That was just
it was
like,
not subtext
let's
at all.
play with this. Yeah.
Because a big part of that series is the idea that these superheroes, essentially, if they are good, if they are on the side of good, like Butch is Captain Masculine, some of the other ones, what they don't realize that they are essentially an indentured servant to the cities because of contracts that were signed when they were children. So they're just kind of oblivious, and they're like, well, I can be helpful in this way. I can just save people. It's not until he starts with Xander, who's his love interest, who's like, oh no, like you realize you're a servant. You do what they tell you. You will let yourself get beat to shit. You will let yourself not get paid, not get taken care of. So it's actually the villain that comes in and rescues him from his servitude so that he can actually have choice. And I think that's another fun part of this archetype, and having this character be the archetype is sometimes you have to save him. He doesn't
I love that. Yeah.
You're the one that has to be like, I don't know if you've noticed.
You are being taken advantage of.
You cannot assume everybody around you is good or gives a shit as much as you do. I'm going to help.
I hadn't thought about saving the himbo. I thought about the himbo doing the saving. I love that.
Well, you think, right? I'm like, oh, look, my shirt ripped open. Oh, look, let me hold you and like get you out of water and like slow motion running down the beach, and his pectorals are dancing as he like rescues, and he like flips his hair around, and he's in like the Daniel Craig tiny blue swim shorts from Casino Royale, right? But the himbo may also need to be the one that gets saved.
And not physically saved, usually from a situation that they're finding themselves in, or some sort of emotional situation they can't navigate.
Because he's probably just stumbled into something, and perhaps someone has taken advantage of his innate goodness, his innate obliviousness, perhaps. And you're like, oh, I actually get to save the really big masculine looking dude.
Yeah. And like in Butch's case, like he was raised in it. And it's one of those things where like when you're raised in it and you're told by the only people you trust that that's the way that it is, you take that at face value because that's the only thing that you know. You know, I mean, my kids watching the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and so I'm all like, Winter Soldier, but like we don't need to go there.
No, I just remembered Xander's villain name is Dr. Antihero. I was trying to think of it. It's Dr. Antihero and Captain Masculine. And It's the anti-hero that saves the hero. Again, C. Rochelle was not being subtle with her metaphors in these books. But there's something just very satisfying about that. Now, as fans of the show will know, I don't read straight romance. I'm not particularly interested. So I didn't go look for any of these examples in like MF books, in straight romance. But I do know they exist in very much a similar way, right? She's the powerful, smart lawyer. She's the, even the one that is like overworked and being taken advantage of at work. And he's like the puppy that's like, oh, but why don't you just say no and you'd like to take a nap? And she's like, I can't do that. Like, I'm trying to advance. And he goes, no, let's just, and like, he'll get her to like take a day off of work. And it's like, oh, I don't have to be on around him. I have to be on at work because workplace dynamics, but around him, I don't have to be. So it's relaxing. It goes back to, just as you said, it's that sigh of relief that his masculinity is not going to be the thing that stresses me the fuck out. Maybe it's the smell of his protein shakes around the apartment, but it's not going to be him.
Yeah. All right. So do you have any like favorite himbo books that you want to highlight and share?
Oh my God. Emmy Sanders.
Oh, she writes a great himbo.
She does. There's several of them that she has, but I think my favorite, and I shipped this like when the book first came out, was 10 Ways to Accidentally Fall in Love. And you've got a himbo character who's like, you know, he's like a trainer. I think, hold on, let me just remember. This is the one where Himbo's a trainer and the other guy is like a gay man that comes to his gym. And
yeah, and he's like, let's just work out together, bro. Like,
he's like, oh, we'll hang out. We'll go out for dinner. And the gay character is like, are we dating? And he's like, are what? You're gay?
No, we're just having fun, dude. We're bros.
We're just buds, right? Like it's just really fun. Or even Himbo Hitman. I shipped that a while ago when it came out by Saxon James. I think his name is Perry. And he's just like, you know, he goes to this bar, this club, and he's just like, oh, everybody's totally hitmans, and I'm gonna go be a hitman. And they're like, motherfucker, you don't know what you're doing. You're so dumb. And then he gets this contract and he can't do it. So now he starts being friends with the guy he was supposed to kill. And he's like, what is happening here? So the tension is, when are other people going to start to go after this contract, where the guy he was supposed to have killed was just like, okay, I guess we can hang out and try to find out who is trying to kill me. And, you know, Perry's like, I'm going to protect you. And he goes, you've never fired a gun in your fucking life. Like, what are we doing here?
Okay, can I give an MF himbo that is like beloved on the Reddit? So I just found the Reddit thread where I was probably recommended this book in 2022 because people just love this book. It's not necessarily my favorite himbo, but like it is the beloved MF himbo book, which is Against the Wall by Kate C. Wells. So it's about Glenna, who's this like small town newspaper reporter. She grew up there. She's like struggling. When she was in high school, she used to get like called names and pranked, and like she's, you know, just published this article and people in town didn't like it. And then there's Cash Wall, who is who's such a himbo, but when Glenna's boyfriend breaks up with her, he's like, oh, I'll take care of Glenna. I'll take care of Glenna, you know, and like he was one of the ones that bullied her in high school. And so she has to learn to trust him, but they have a reason for fake dating that I completely forget at this point, you know? And then he ends up like being her protector. And when this newspaper story comes out that people disagree with, he's like, no, Glenna told the truth, and here I can prove it to you. And he sort of like turns the town in her favor and shows the conspiracy behind what she was actually saying and proves it, and it was actually blah blah blah, blah, you know, like that kind of thing. So he stumbles into the truth accidentally, but he is so beloved because he's just like the golden retriever for this person that he's had a crush on, and that's why he bullied her in high school, which is not a plot premise that I personally loved, but people love Cash Wall, so I had to give the straight readers out there
give them something, I guess.
Yeah, give me something.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say about Himbo is just when it talks about specifically in queer romance, and the reason that I think it's a beloved character, that archetype that shows up a lot there, is around the idea of like gay awakening, bi awakening, whatever you want to call it, is their sexuality doesn't matter to them because they're just like, okay, sure, you're a dude, you have a penis, that could be fun, right? So them, because they're just so oblivious to it, like if we think about the 10 Ways to Accidentally Fall in Love, Emmy Sanders book, It's like, oh yeah, we're just hanging out. I really enjoy being around you. You're super fun. Oh, yeah, I guess I could kiss you. That'd be kind of nice, right? Like he has no hangups about his sexuality. He's just like, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
bro, sounds like fun. Like,
All right, I'm gonna
like that
add
again, releasing that sense of tension on, am I gay? It's a guy. He does not give a shit.
no. It's just like dicks are cool.
Yeah, I got one. It's fun.
Yeah. Let me see if someone else's is as fun as mine is. I'm gonna add one more very popular himbo in the romantasy space, which you have not read, which at some point I'm going to force you to read, A Court of Thorn and Roses.
Yeah.
But Cassian, my fellow romanticeers out there are gonna be like, yes, Cassian is one of the bat boys. He's one of Reese's best friends from childhood, and he is the warrior archetype, which we could talk about. And I don't think that he's that dumb, but he's sort of dumb compared to the rest of them, or oblivious compared to the rest of them. But he pairs up with the Ice Queen character and sort of melts her through both, being nice to her and taking care of her, but also like teaching her to be strong, teaching her to take care of herself. So some of that Jimbo personal trainer, like protect yourself, here's how to get strong, plays into, I would say, like Mist and Fury is where Cassian is when people really fell in love with him, and then Silver Flames is Cassian and Nesta's book, and that's where people just like totally adored Cassian. So he's a really great himbo archetype of the generation. He might be the generational himbo character, honestly.
Ooh. I feel like at some point we're gonna have to do like rankings of like who is the himbo of this generation, who is the golden retriever, like whatever those main character archetypes of, like when we were talking about how Jack Lemmon's CC Baxter in The Apartment was kind of the prototype for the Tom Hanks, Hugh Grant, foppish romantic heroes of the 90s. This might be something interesting to go through and be like, who do we have in literature? The challenge obviously is in today's landscape. There's just so many characters. You don't have standouts in much the same way that you did, just because the content is so much bigger. But there's probably still tentpole characters or tentpole archetypes that people do think of, like, oh, that. It's right. I think it's easier with TV. I think a lot, right? We think of like, Friends to Lovers, it's Monica and Chandler, right? We don't have, I think, the exact same version of that now because there's so much just more, but it might be interesting to play with. Almost like
I would like to do
doing a bracket on like all of the himbo type characters, like which himbo reigns supreme. Which,
okay, so do we have any like film himbo archetypes?
Yeah, I would say
Matthew McConaughey feels like a little himbo-y in a lot of his stuff.
In some, he definitely can be. I think if you almost like, honestly, since you talked about the MCU, Thor post Ragnarok.
Thor,
like in Love and Thunder.
We just watched Ragnarok last week. Yeah, he has big himbo energy.
Yeah, I think he definitely does after Ragnarok, and after like the Endgame Infinity War saga where he's just depressed. But I think in Love and Thunder, he's definitely starting to get that vibe back. He's a god who became funny and warmer the less seriously he takes himself. As I said, Jason Mendoza from The Good Place.
Yep.
Kronk is definitely one.
Is Channing Tatum like often a himbo? I feel like he has the. But I haven't seen a lot of Channing Tatum movies.
He definitely has the look of one. I'm trying to think. Which movies though? I can't think of any of his movies off the top of my head that would have that. Hold on, let me check see if I can.
Not She's the Man. Here. I never saw Magic Mike.
He's not a himbo in that one.
Okay. Or 21 Jump Street. I'm used to
actually, you know what? 21 and 22 Jump Street, Channing Tatum has himbo vibes in that because he is the dumb one compared to Jonah Hill's smart one, and eventually there is crossover as they learn about each other. So actually 21 and 22 Jump Street are a pretty good example of that.
Okay, good. All right, well, we will continue to explore our archetypes. You don't have to come up with that on the fly.
Oh, actually, Colin Bridgerton has been called a himbo.
Colin Bridgerton, he is a little bit of a himbo, especially
in the TV for sure, not as much the book.
No, but you get that because like the opposites attract of it, where Penelope is like the bookworm and the wallflower, and then she gets paired up with a himbo. I think it does work.
Yeah. Joey Tribbiani is kind of showing up a lot.
Well, yeah.
from Friends.
Total
Obviously,
himbo.
Yeah, he's definitely a bit of a himbo.
You did so much work researching himbos. So what is the thing that you ship the most about the himbo?
I think it is going back to I get to enjoy the aesthetics of a masculinity that I personally enjoy. I like someone who is strong, large, fit, but I don't have to deal with the drama that usually comes with it, the controlling, possessive, big dick energy, and not the kind that I like. They're like, there's no drama around that. He already has the emotional depth or the emotional vulnerability of a hero that is like, I see why people would like this, and I don't have to deal with the drama. That's nice. Give me the pretty thing that also doesn't cause me stress. It's very much something I like. What about you, Meg? What do you ship the most by himbos?
I think it's the ease of partnership where you don't have to work so hard to crack them open. You don't have to clean up their messes. You don't, maybe you do a little bit, but it's not like you don't have to pry through, crack their rib cage open, make them love you. No, they come in loving you. You just need to like retain the loyalty of a himbo. Don't hurt the himbos.
Don't hurt them. They are gentle.
Don't hurt them. They're so sweet.
We don't want them to become an endangered species.
No.
All right. Well, that is all for our himbos today. Before we get into the question of what we're shipping today, it would be delightful if you could head on over to your podcast provider of choice, rate, review, and subscribe. Leave a comment if you're on Spotify or Substack. Leave a comment. Tell us who your favorite himbo is. I want to know. I need to expand my himbo repertoire. Meg, what are you shipping this week?
I am shipping the final installment of the Puck Boys series. Charming Puck Boy. They've come out and said this is the last one in the series. It's book 10. It is Lockie, so the youngest Kiki boy, and he is a Disney princess. He is a himbo. He is so delightful. He is so go with the flow. He's never really had a problem in his life. He's just like, he's also a jock, but he's like a lighthearted jock. He's not an egotistical jock. And he has had a crush on the manager of the like animal shelter in his hometown in Denver since he was 12 and Sam was 18. And okay, he wasn't the manager when he was 18. He was just a volunteer. But he brings in a cat who's giving birth, and Sam's there, and he hasn't seen him in several years because he went off to be hockey man. And they just have this like really sweet like summer fling where they fall in love with each other, and then they have to do long distance for a little bit, which I love as a plot device, even though it's terrible, because sometimes when you have people who have sort of an insta-love situation like this where they have a ticking time bomb over their head, it can feel like it's too easy to be like, oh well, I'll just move across the country for you, no big deal. But these guys really worked through it and went, no, I can't just pick up my life and leave you, so we have to try long distance, and it's not going to be easy, especially on a hockey schedule. And it felt like, as somebody who did long distance for 2 years before I moved, it felt really true to life in that, like, I miss you, but I also have to have my own life side of things. And Lockie is just a joyful, sweet, like, loves his family, loves his hometown, loves his job, loves animals, including they, like, adopt a puppy. Like, it is, I don't want to say low conflict, because it does have this sort of angsty, how are we going to make this work situation. But it is so sweet. And it was just, like, a great way to finish off a 10-book series of generally low angst, high heat, hockey romance. So if you haven't started the Puck Boys, now the series is complete and you can just binge it all. Book 10, Charming Puck Boy by Eden Finley and Saxon James.
So nice. I haven't read it yet. It's on my list. I think I actually want to reread the entire series so I can remember like who everybody is and how they all connect together.
And like Eden and Saxon do a great job of bringing in the characters, and I actually think they did a little too much collective at the beginning of this one, where I'm like, I don't need to see every single person from the previous 9 books plus the other books before that in order to prove that it's part of the series. Like, yes, I have read the books. Exactly, but since they do have this cadence of these collective vacations, it makes sense that they can do it, and that's built into the series, so it's not like outside of it. But yeah, it was like, it's just a really, really sweet, well done book. And like very small town, which you don't always get with hockey, where it's like, we're going to do a fundraiser and we're going to go to the animal shelter. And like, it had a tightness to it that can be hard to do when you don't also have a character who's in their hometown. So loved that one.
Beautiful.
What about you, Nikki? What are you shipping?
I threaded about this. What's the verb for threads? I don't know.
I think threaded.
Sure, I thread that needle. I saw this recommended in one of the big book rec groups on Facebook, and it is Bedside Manner, is book 1 in the St. Jude's Medical Series by C.G. Masington. It's a 3-book series, so Bedside Manner is book 1. I rarely laugh when I read, but when I tell you I was laughing out loud while I was reading this entire series. And it has a lot of things that I like. You know, you've got the head of cardiothoracic surgery at this hospital. His parents are rich as hell. They're on the board of the hospital. They own the hospital. And he was made into this cold doctor of precision. It later in the series comes out, slight spoiler alert, that he actually has autism spectrum disorder, and his parents hid it from him and hid it from everybody else because they didn't want him to be like, ooh, my kid's autistic. They wanted to hide all of that. So anytime he tried to cope, they really shut all of that down for him, which has now turned him into this like very cold, very directive, but very brilliant cardiothoracic surgeon. And he, due to construction happening in the hospital, he is made to share an office with the head of trauma in the ER. And obviously the opposite is going to attract here. So then you have the other doctor who is a former army doctor, chaotic, loud, brash, does things on the fly. You know, people are coming into trauma. And so Dr. Maxwell York is the cardiothoracic surgeon. Dr. Jax O'Connell is the head of trauma. And Jax is very much like, oh, guy's coming in. I have to save him right now. I'm going to crack him open literally right here to save him to get to surgery. Whereas Maxwell's like, it's not a sterile field. We're not organized. He's like, we have to do this. So it's very regimented. And they're made to share an office for a couple of weeks. And obviously sparks start to fly. It's this push and pull between like chaos and super regimented. You know, there's family drama. It's oil and water. There's hospital mergers going on. There's a lot of things happening in there. And it's both of them trying to not only navigate their professional relationship, but as the tension explodes in very predictable ways, given that it's a romance, it's what do we do next? And it's really fun because book 2 is about Maxwell's younger brother who is like eidetic memory, super brilliant, but like lazy as fuck. And his brother Maxwell bets him, you could never do what we do. And he's like, okay. So he goes to medical out of spite to say, I can do what you do. So in the second book, his younger brother comes in and meets another doctor in the hospital who is the son of the head charge nurse, and she is showing up in all the books because she's hilarious. Of course, she's like a Filipino mama nurse who runs the entire hospital like it's her bitch. And then the third book is about the wedding for Jax and Maxwell from book 1. And when I tell you, this book series has one of the worst overbearing mother characters I've ever seen. She is stressful, but it works quite well. And so I was just really impressed at this entire series. It was so smart. It was so funny. And I loved every single character that was in it. So definitely check out the St. Jude's Medical Series. Book 1 is called Bedside Manner. It's by C.G. Masington. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Huge fan of this series. And that's all for us this week. Pew, 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 pew. That's my end of podcast notes. You're welcome.
End of podcast sounds.
End of podcasting notes.
You know, I put music underneath it. You don't have to actually make the sounds.
No, I'm going to make my own music now. If I could beatbox to myself and still do words, I would.
Wait, how does the music even go? If
you would like to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do that absolutely for free. As I said, head on over to your podcast provider of choice, leave us a rating, review, and subscribe. Tell a friend about the show. We love to bring more soulmates into our universe, and be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We are at First Dates and Soulmates on most things, primarily Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Threads. We're just hanging out over there. It's great fun. And if you do have a little bit of money you'd like to shoot our way, you can check out our merch store. It's on TeePublic, listed in the show notes. You can check out our sponsorships. Meg has put together some amazing sponsorship packages for folks to check out on our website, firstdatesinsoulmates.com, also linked in the notes for you. And if you'd like to support the show for 1 month, for many months, you can also subscribe to us on Substack. We would greatly appreciate it. And coming up next week, talking about himbos and sports, it is time for another series watch, folks. We are going to be diving into the newly released Amazon Prime series, the Off-Campus series, based on the L. Kennedy series of books, which we've read The Deal back in the day. So if you want to go kind of prepare yourself for this episode, other than just watching the episodes, be sure to head on into our back catalog and check out the episode we did on The Deal and Him, both hockey romances and both by L. Kennedy. We will see you next week. Bye.